18 minutes to the top of the hour. This is the Morning Drill on Stream Television and the Allegheny News Talk Sports Network. We welcome our next guest to the program this morning, Reverend Babcock. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Merry Christmas to you and the audience as well.
Merry Christmas. Good to see you this morning.
Good to see you, too.
Boy, 2015, you guys have done a lot out at Community Bible Church. There's been a lot going on.
We worked and worked and worked, and we've had to put a new roof on the fellowship hall, but we got the volleyball court going, and we dumped triaxle loads of dirt. Finally got our baseball field in order. I got to put some silt on it next year, but we're anxious for the township to when they make their call for the kids for Little League, and we put. We were going to do some 3-day summer camps this year. It's one of the things that I've been looking forward to trying to get going for the last couple of years. And I didn't want the kids pitching their tents on the ground, so we built platforms up off the ground for the tents. And so we're kind of looking forward to that. Have the big screen outside going, and picnic area, and
so nothing slows down in the new year.
Nothing slows down. No, we've adopted a lot of children for Christmas, and we're really getting excited about tomorrow.
So let's talk about that. Of course, Christmas Eve is a special time, and you guys have a service like many other churches in the region. So talk about the service tomorrow.
Tomorrow we'll have a candlelight service. It'll start at 7:00. One of the things that we do, our church, we adopt a lot of kids for Christmas, and our program is participatory.
And thank you, by the way, for adopting Mark tomorrow when he's out.
Yes, it's always good to have Mark out there. I tell you, and then we had a little program, and so that'll be on. We basically retell the story of Jesus' birth and Christmas. There's a sermon, and then the kids are excited about the stockings hanging in the back of the church and the presents around the Christmas tree. And then after the service, we'll spend our time with the kids.
Wow, that's fantastic. So when you're prepping for that message tomorrow, it sounds like there's the outline of things that maybe happen yearly. But what do you do to introduce something new every year?
Well, what do is I pray a lot. I go to the Holy Spirit and I pray and make sure that the message that I have.
Do you look at last year's and say, okay, this is what I did last year. This year I'm going to do this, or is it just whatever you're?
Right. I may go back and look at the last couple of years and see what I did because people don't want to hear the same message over and over again. And so, but there's a lot of messages, and there's a lot of ways to reach, and there's always new people and I try to make everything that I preach kind of germane to what's going on at the time. Sometimes I'll connect to current history or current fears.
It seems like we've been on repeat the last couple of years. Same news stories, same. What's old is new again? I don't know.
Well, sometimes that's good. People like it never surprises me when I hear from people that they call and they like, they like to hear and sing the same Christmas carols. And they look forward to that time when we, and people like to hear the same story. It's reassuring.
Well, the past two guests today, Mark, it's been a lot of talk about tradition and things that, make folks feel good this time of year. And I'm sure you get people that say, when we come out, we want to hear this Christmas song or this hymn or this, we want to hear this passage. Or I'm sure for them it's grounded in tradition and something that they look forward to experiencing every year.
Well, for a lot of folks, I imagine this is one of the few times they go to church, sadly, but what they come, I guess they come with some high expectations about what they want to see or experience on Christmas.
You basically have two different groups of people that are willing to be participants in that, and that's the people who traditionally come to church and they're looking, for the tradition that they've grown up with from childhood, and then fortunately, and for us, we have another group that are on church that haven't been in church and that are learning, and so it's not difficult, but it's a joy for us to try to blend the two. We like to see our kids growing up in an environment, because basically what we know culturally is that our children grow up when they turn 17, 18, graduate from high school. They and go off to college or go to the military or whatever. They stop going to church for a while, and then generally come back to church when they get married and start having their first children, and so. Part of this is trying to plug into those kids, because we've lost two generations of people. We're into our third generation of children who have parents and grandparents who didn't go to church. And so trying to plug that generation back in as a place, knowing that there's going to be a pause for them, but hopefully that they will have a good relationship with the church and come back at a later date is important.
And that sounds like something that a lot of people are spending a lot of time thinking about. How do you get those people back to church, or why is there such a gap?
Well, we've been celebrating Christmas for I'm not going to say 2,000 years, but we've been celebrating the birth of Christ for 2,000 years, and I don't think people have grown tired of it in all of that time. And I think it's important for us to understand. Paul tells us in the scriptures that we should hold fast to our traditions. God tells us in the Old Testament, as told the Jews many times, to remember their feast days. So those days of celebration and those traditions are important to us. We enjoy that, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas. We enjoy whatever our family traditions are, and that's one of the things as a therapist that I tell people is to develop their family traditions, and when we see the family growing up and the one generation passing and the older generation passing away, it generally, one of the things that's really necessary is for somebody in the family to step up and develop the family traditions, and those are important, and those are what would ground us and hold us together, and our kids look forward to that. And one of the things that we really need to do with our children is give them a sense that they're okay, and that's being in a church, being around adults, being part of programs and things like that. Let's our kids know that they're okay and they can continue on tomorrow and that. And so it's that security. It's the child walking around with the blanket.
Right.
And that's one of the things that's important for all of us. We change our blankets for our traditions often.
Oh, Mark still has the blanket he carries around.
It's out in the car.
Yeah. Sometimes he brings it.
Yeah, it is. Let's see, 8:50 is our time. This is the Morning Drill on Stream Television and the Allegheny News Talk Sports Network. I want to ask you, because we've had Reverend Ed Gressick on yesterday. We had Terry Purvis-Smith, Dr. Terry Purvis-Smith on the other day. And one of the things we got into was this time of year can be happy for many.
Yes.
For others, it can be a very sad time. Maybe they lost a loved one or they're alone. How important is it for the members of your congregation to look out for those people who might need to be reached out to and just say, hey, we're thinking about you, or hey, come over to our house for dinner?
If you'll go back and look at some of my sermons, since Thanksgiving, I've been telling people, that to be concerned, because people do go through. It's a time when people don't have all the things that they've dreamed about, or for some people they don't understand the reason for their depression and their sadness. And I always tell people that our door is open for counseling. We never turn anybody away. People can call us at 967-362 628, and we'll see them for counseling. We do all kinds of counseling, but that's one of the things that we all should be concerned about over the holidays. It's tough for some, and it's wonderful for others, and sometimes it's just going in and figuring out what it is that's making people depressed. But yes, opening our doors. The church is always open. We invite everybody to the service tomorrow night. We're going to have cookies and punch and stuff, and watch the kids. And I think there's nothing more wonderful than it. Just always cheers me up and fills my heart. When I see the kids just tearing into the into the presents and having a great time. And even through the rest of the year, seeing kids with smiling and laughing and out in the playground and running around and doing stuff is always wonderful.
Well, it builds the community. It builds the kids up, especially the individuals. It builds up who they are in many, many ways.
And that's one of the things that we strive to do. We've named ourselves a community church. We want to be a community church, and I'll reach out to the people in the area and reach out to needs. And again, that's why counseling is important. Going to church is important. Worshiping our Lord Jesus Christ is important, and all of those things. And we try to stay attuned to that. You're very correct that people go through, and sometimes when we don't know, they're seasonal. I mean, it's just a change in the weathers and whatever.
Or it's just something. Christmas is a tough time for a lot of folks. Other holidays can trigger issues too, but Christmas is such a complicated holiday.
Well,
sometimes.
We had a guest this morning, who lost their mother, and the immediate thoughts of Christmas to them were those great memories they had growing up, and maybe folks that they're not going to see around the table or around the tree in the morning, or maybe the family that used to sit next to them at church, maybe they're no longer there. There's a lot of opportunities for folks to go back and again bring up good positive things, but also some very sad emotional things.
And it's not only loss, but it's sometimes facing the realization that the expectations that I set for myself as a child or last year, I didn't meet, and so those things are, but and to shove them in a box and not express them, not have anybody to deal with them, and not be made to feel that those things are important, isn't a good thing to do, and people should recognize. I have no problem with somebody calling me on the telephone saying I'm being depressed at Christmas time. Can we talk? And I would tell anybody from your audience, please give us a call, and my door.
And that's
is
not just
open.
This time of year. That's
no, it's all year round. Our doors always open for everybody to come in to. And people go through difficult times, and I do. Yesterday I was at Crawford County Jail, and that. So we want to reach out. People have a lot of diverse needs, and we want to be there.
2016, you talked about all the work you've done around the church this past year, but in the new year, do you have a long list of things you want to try to tackle, or?
I think there's always a long.
Is it a little smaller than this past year?
Yeah, it's a little bit smaller than this past year, but not really. I'm really looking forward to being more the pastor and counselor than the carpenter and contractor.
Yeah.
So spending a little bit more time, with people relations than with the hammer and the nail and the nail gun and those things. Civil but I'm looking forward to. We're going to do spring camps. I want to do a baseball camp for the kids and soccer, and we're getting excited to use the field that we put together, and the grass is growing nice out there, and have an opportunity to. We service a lot of children in the area that they can't. I think we sent a dozen children last year, maybe 13 children last year, to camp up in Erie and Camp Judson, and it's expensive. We got scholarships for that, and a lot of our children don't have that, and that's one of the reasons why we're trying to do a 3-day camp that will be reasonable, and the kids are going to come out for 3 days and have a nice. And so that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to.
Very nice. And again, let's recap tomorrow. Time, location.
7 o'clock, Highway 408. You can't miss us because we're the only church along that route that has the moving sign up. And so you come out 408 between Hightown and Townville, and you'll see the church. We have plenty of parking. And fortunately, we haven't lost a lot of our parking due to snow pileup this year.
Yeah.
It's funny because I bought a snowplow for the tractor, and I had to go in and tell the agent yesterday that I really appreciate his snowplow is working wonderfully, because we have no snow out there yet.
It's like having the umbrella so that it doesn't rain.
So that it doesn't rain, yeah. So, and we'll have a candlelight service. Everyone is welcome. We'll have punch and cookies, and we'll have a great time with the children. We have a good number of children. Mark will be there, and we'll have a wonderful time.
Alrighty. Before we wrap things up this morning, Mark, I'll hit you first. What'd you learn today, this week, or we'll be here next week, so we can
You'll get the this year thing.
We'll get the this year thing next week. But what'd you learn today or this week, even though it's a bit shorter for us?
I think what I've learned this week is that Christmas means a lot of things to a lot of different people, and it can hit people different ways. And I think it's how you celebrate it. So sometimes I think Pastor Purvis, Terry Purvis Smith, mentioned that Christmas is a state of mind, and that's I think important.
And for you, it's leaving a shoe outside your door.
Yes, that's been that was a childhood tradition.
That's right.
And every now and then it had a lump of coal in it too.
Reverend Babcock, how about you? What did you learn today, this week, or do you want to share a special memory you have around the holidays?
One of the most special things is always remembering looking at the manger and remembering the birth of Jesus Christ, that he came. As a lowly human, as God came as a human to sacrifice himself for me. It's wonderful to think about the birth of Christ around this time, but it's impossible to think about that love that God had for us without believing, without knowing the full extent that love was fulfilled on the cross. Just what an amazing and wonderful gift, and it never. I think I never get to a point where I come to know that completely. It's something that's always growing. It's always blossoming. It's like the rose. It's the next petal. The more we try to understand God's love for us, the more we have to understand.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us this morning. And quick look at the weather forecast. Just know this: rain. Forever. Rain, the next 200 days. So keep that in mind. Everybody have a very Merry Christmas. We'll be back next week. And we got the best of tomorrow. And I think Andy's running Christmas Music Friday on the radio side. So just keep that in mind. Merry Christmas. See you next week. Have a good one, everybody.